It's the 5th day of July, believe it or not. 2022. In the year of Elon Musk. Did you know that after Fukushima, Elon Musk skateboarded across America to the Pacific, swam across from the Pacific to Japan, as the reactors were melting down, caught the fuel rods in the explosion, and ate them and pooped mixed oxide fuel? Did you know that? He's claiming that if people don't eat the Fukushima food, he's going to go down there and eat all of it himself. He should go down and tell all the women who have disfigured children how lucky they are. Oh, God. He could probably get a job with IAEA, couldn't he? Elon Musk. You gotta be some twisted sicko to get a job with these fuckers. IAEA is short for demon. These are actual real-life demonic, sadistic demons. Here's a couple of their ponds. So all those prefectures, this is Japan to your left, and these are a couple of useful idiots to your right. All those prefectures, 55 countries, banned the food. They didn't have to. Elon Musk would have went down there and ate it all himself, you know. It's the big prefectures too, so it's almost half of Japan the food wasn't safe to eat. And so the nuclear industry was pretty upset about that, and they put people in key positions in 55 countries and removed the restrictions. God, not Elon Musk again. Let me see. Yesterday was the 4th of July. Happy America. Today's July the 5th. It must be happy Elon Musk Day worldwide, is it? Let me see what we got going on here. So we posted the video last night, for instance. We'll do a comparison. It was 146 minutes and 50 seconds. 12 hours later was 146.56. So we got an extra 6 seconds on last night's video, and the video before that was hour and 45 minutes and 9 seconds. And 12 hours later, it magically jumped to an hour and 45 and 16 seconds. I must be special because nobody else's videos does that. I might be Elon Musk's long-lost love child because I think his dad had sex with a Sasquatch. Maybe I can inherit his toilet paper. Elon Musk explains why he's pro-nuclear. He did not, actually. He regurgitated something. Well, let's have a look at it. I was going to get it to a psychiatrist to see if he should be, if there was some kind of message here, but usually if you play Elon Musk backwards, it kind of makes sense. Let me find a better, why he's pro-nuclear. Don't you just hate people like that? No, I'm pro-nuclear. Better than you. Elon Musk is arguably the world's biggest arsehole. Clean energy advocate. Really? Come on. And his company Tesla, because he couldn't come up with his own name, so he stole Nikola Tesla's name, has built some of the biggest batteries, which is Nikola Tesla would have done a better job. Battery storage. Why would you use huge battery storage systems for it? I'm confused about that. Because you can use pumped hydro and compressed air storage. So you pump water up a hill. And you can have mineral water, so it's really heavy. You got to use less. Or you can dig big tunnels wherever you'd need storage, and you compress air down there. You scavenge the heat, and you can store it in salt. Keep it for up to 2 weeks, where you can unpack the heat to expand the compressed air, and don't have to come up with any technologies, no toxic waste like batteries when it's all said and done. It's basically walk away for 50 years because it's just steel and air and compressors. Is that a stupid idea? Pumping water up a hill instead of batteries. Apart from leading Nikola Tesla's name into a new milestone, Musk is also funding a $100 million carbon capture removal. Well, first off, carbon doesn't make plumes that covers the planet. There is something that does that, though. That's Fukushima radioactive fallout plume is a 16-day model from France. If he made a radiation capturing systems, that would be awesome. But carbon is not going to heat the planet up. Carbon doesn't pulse energy every second almost at the speed of light. Carbon doesn't make plumes like this. Does anybody know what Elon Musk is freaking talking about? His X Prize. I got so much money now, I don't know what to do. Let's be an asshole. He was interviewed on Getting Stoned podcast. Because that makes a lot of sense. You really think there's a whole lot of pro-nuclear over there, Elon Musk? Stating it's also important to find ways to store carbon for space travel. It really is what they're up to. Look, carbon doesn't cover the planet in plumes, stupid. The radiation does, and it pulses energy every second for billions of years. You might know it as global warming and climate change, where you're trying to blame carbon, which is an inert gas. It doesn't have any energy. Stupid to suggest that's going to heat the planet. Radiation, though. 75 years of that. This plume is a 20-day model of Fukushima radioactive fallout. To accomplish next to nothing, because every species out there needs carbon to survive, particularly plants and insects, Musk noted that a lot of energy would need to be used, so he believes that using nuclear energy to kill the planet is a good idea. Tesla. This is another radioactive fallout model that Elon Musk is not going to tell you about when he's talking about carbon. From Fukushima radioactive fallout covering the planet. You noted that unless locations are at risk of a natural disaster, using nuclear power is a pretty good energy solution. All nuclear power plants are hemorrhaging dirty bombs of plumes of radiation all day from the fuel pools. They're still splitting the atom. When you take the fuel out of the reactor, the 700-800 tons of fuel, and put it in a pool, it's going to be splitting the same atoms that normally split to boil the water, except it's going looking for people to make sick. It picked up 60 million one-ton bags. When did you come up with the carbon or radiation capturing devices for that? Tasked to develop dishes with Fukushima product, not academics, not scientists, but food grown in a nuclear wasteland. Students are tasked with coming up with solutions for the radioactive food grown in a nuclear wasteland. Is there anybody on the planet with common sense left anywhere? Mayday. 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 Student samples local farm products made in the nuclear wasteland. I'm not laughing, I'm trying not to scream. I mean, they're so savage. They're growing food right alongside of 1-ton bags, thousands and thousands of 1-ton bags of nuclear waste. This picture is actually from a Japanese newspaper criticizing people for chastising the farmers for growing food in a nuclear wasteland. It was not just Fukushima. 55 countries banned the food from 14 prefectures. Elon Musk should feed his kids Fukushima food from right here for the next 10 years. That way make sure no more Elon Musk is on the planet. I'm actually pro-nuclear, which is... Did you just hate the sound of them? I'm pro-nuclear. I think nuclear has a bad rap. A bad rap. A bad rap, man. You really think the plumes that are covering the entire planet, that the radiation gets in your body, it pulses energy every second, wherever it sequesters in your muscles, your organs, your bones. Your body attacks the white blood cells for the rest of your life all day. That displaces the red cells carrying nutrition and oxygen throughout your body, by the way. And the insects and the animals, the mammals. Hello, Elon Musk, there's other species out there besides you. Did you know that 50 becquerels a kilogram have irreversible heart damage for children? You think you're pro-nuclear, really? So you're pro-kill, murder, destroy all children at the supermarkets, are you? You kooky lunatic. People shouldn't be shutting down nuclear power stations, in his opinion, unless there's a location that's prone to natural disasters. No, they're always hemorrhaging. Like, first off, most nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms. Second off, they're all hemorrhaging radiation 24 hours a day up that skinny stack right there. And through the fuel pools all day. And it ends up in the farms. They build it in the middle of farmland so the farmers will move the radiation away and to poison the people. This is not friggin' hard to learn, okay? Almost every single nuclear power plant on the planet is surrounded by farms or directly in a city. That's a fact. Radiation is always falling out of the reactors. It's constant. And we know plants and fruit and vegetables and everything suck up radiation, okay? It sucks it up. And when it's covering the entire planet, that's enough. That's enough. Coal, oil, and gas emissions don't do shit like this. Pulsing energy every second, almost at the speed of light for millions of years on top of that. Yay. The atomic plague. And you're out there promoting it, are you? So you're no longer a human then. Like the Fukushima situation, well, you know, there's a lot of tsunamis and stuff. Nice answer, but really articulating that. So it's probably not great to have nuclear where there's natural disasters, which is the whole planet now. Thanks to Fukushima, the catalyst, the straw that broke the nuclear camel's back. Climate change is 75, 80 years of constant emissions from the nuclear industry. And Fukushima, events like Fukushima, Santa Susana, Mayak, blah, 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 blah. For example, in France, what do you keep saying like for? I hate to. France or Germany, in many parts of the U.S., there's really no meaningful risks of a natural disaster. They're all surrounded by farms. They're all hemorrhaging radiation all day, every day. All nuclear power plants. That's the problem. That's why they want to store fuel in a deep geological repository. But unfortunately, they're going to wait until they fill the planet up with radiation. They're going to wait and fill the planet up with radiation first. Over time, Elon Musk will brainwash everybody, so don't worry about it. Note that batteries and solar will probably be the solutions, not compressed air storage or pumped hydro. Because you can recirculate the water. They do it over in the United Kingdom. Same water recirculated over and over for peak power for 6 hours, right? And compressed air storage, you can dig a hole anywhere and compress air. It's brilliant. Now really, what you want to do, you want geothermal tidal energy. Both of them are 24 hours a day sustained, not dependent on anything but the solar system. You back that up with wind and solar, and back that up with compressed air and pumped hydro storage. So you need all 6 of them for major cities, and that's why you're guaranteed not to have no failures. You got extra redundancy everywhere. But hey, let's wait for Elon Musk to figure it out, then everything will be okay. Nuclear power, not a bad alternative. It's a terrible alternative. It's just absurd. They take your children out to Bikini Atoll for a couple of weeks vacation, and we'll come back, we'll have this conversation again, okay? They destroyed all the paradises on the planet. They are disintegrated with nuclear weapons, or just contaminated it. The Bikini Atoll is 1 million square kilometers that is too contaminated to habitat. And all the migratory, it's big nursery for species worldwide in a nuclear wasteland. Go visit Christmas Island. Go visit the French Polynesians, all these beautiful atolls that the industry contaminated permanently, and tell all the women with the jelly babies how wonderful nuclear is. They'll take you up and show you the beautiful piece of stone with hand-carved name of their child on it. Oh, God. You love this. Don't go away. Wait. You got to listen to this lady. This is magic. So they pick up 60 million one-ton bags. Hang on. Got to do so much work. Elon Musk doesn't do this kind of work. To tell his stories. He's like, just repeat after me in all the media worldwide, and the majority rules.
There's about 60 million tons of contaminated.
Let me do that again.
There's about 60 million tons of contaminated soil that's being stored, planned to be stored, outside the Fukushima Daiichi perimeter fence. So
60 million.
There's about 60.
Is 10 rows of traffic, bumper to bumper, right around the planet, the 1-ton trucks with a single bag. Elon Musk is not trying to come up with solutions for that, I bet you. But hey, this is only the crazies are allowed, so this was a clip from today. They're taking the 1-ton bags of radiation, mixing with other soil and growing food in it. I'm not kidding. Honest to goodness. I swear. Give me a second.
The stigma of a nuclear wasteland is hampering efforts to repopulate the
nuclear wasteland. My God.
These might look like just any rice paddies, but the ground on which the rice grows has an unspeakable past. At this recycling plant, right across from the rice paddies in Nagatoro, hundreds of thousands of tons of soil and other waste tainted with radioactive substances can be found here. They came from areas near the damaged Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant with an average radiation level of 100,000 becquerels per kilogram. Radiation levels have been brought down to below 5,000 becquerels before it's allowed to leave the plant and being transported here and blended with a good soil to grow rice. It's estimated that about 1/4 of the field was made up of decontaminated soil from the recycling plant. The Environment Ministry is trying to find various ways of reusing soil. And one of them is by trying to harvest rice. Last year, officials said rice was successfully harvested. Even though Nagadoro is currently still a no man's land, I am on a government-organized trip to Fukushima. Officials want to show the world efforts that have been made to revive areas left lifeless by the nuclear accident.
So it's still a no man's land, but they're walking in it. Because they're immune to radiation, Dana. I noticed. The problem with radiation in this environment, you're talking about physical atoms. And you're talking about a lot of them, unfortunately. So, we're there to... we should find something better of this madness. Here, I can fix that, hopefully. Oh, okay, so... you're breathing in all these atoms. They're getting in your hair, your clothing. You go home, wash your clothes, and contaminate your pillows and your children's clothing. But so anyway, you're breathing this stuff in as she's walking along. That's why it's a no-go zone. Oh, and so they mix it down to 5,000 becquerels a kilogram. 5,000 becquerels. 55 is an actual evacuation zone pre-Fukushima and a nuclear power plant. Now, growing food at 5,000 a kilogram. 50 becquerels a square meter, a cubic meter is what 55 was. Let me bring in. We got a poll there, and let's bring in the external calculator. Hello, calculator. How are you today? I'm pretty good, Dana. How are you? Oh, not so bad. Wasn't for Elon Musk, I would have had a pretty good day. Oh, he's got to go and say, I'm pro-nuclear. I'm pro-nuclear. So you got 5,000 becquerels a kilogram. You got to multiply that by 64. It's actually 68, but we'll lowball it. 64 to get what's the square meter, you know, the size of your dinner table where your children are going to swing their arms spinning around. 320,000 of these atoms pulsing every minute. And that's where they're going to grow food. It'll suck up all of that, of course. They're animals. So, because Elon Musk didn't come up with a solution, now they're going to grow food in it to filter the radiation. It's just, it doesn't seem real that people like this actually exist. 320,000 atoms per square meter is where they're growing the food. They're only acknowledging gamma, by the way, cesium-137, and on top of that, not the other gammas. And so you're ignoring alpha and betas and neutrons, because you can't have one without all the other, for goodness sakes. You can't have cesium without 1,000 other fission products. It's just hard to believe that they put out that video in a nuclear wasteland and a no-go zone and blah, 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 grown food right across from the nuclear waste site in a no-go zone on top of that. The field is not only mixed with rice from decontamination around the plant, but it's also in a no-go zone. Growing food, nuclear waste soil in a nuclear wasteland. And claiming delusion somehow mitigates. Jeez, I hope somebody discovers another planet so I get the fuck off of this one. This place is insane. Tight folk, expected in the EU Parliament on plans to label gas and nuclear green. Tight vote. This is absurdness in infinity. How can anybody suggest that nuclear is green? It's the most carbon-intensive thing in human history, for goodness sakes. Dennis wrecks the carbon for like animals and insects and birds, mammals and humans and everything else for billions of years. Because, like, see, radioactive fallout, anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout, these elements are not created by the sun. They're not created by the solar system either. They're called man-made because we made them, we created them. The current fission is the wrong application for this commodity on our planet. Fusion was the only one. We can't achieve that because we're too much inbreeding in the universities, right? The actual talented people will never get a chance to go in, come up with solutions. Like, let's face it, Elon Musk is no Nikola Tesla. He's never going to be a Nikola Tesla either. He takes other people's ideas. He's not a Nikola Tesla who come up with all of the solutions for remote control, for wireless signaling, telephone, everything else, for wireless transmission electricity. All the current light bulbs were typically his patent. All the lasers are his patents. They were bought by other people to fund the rest of his research. And, you know, Elon Musk is not even any shape or form, by any means whatsoever, on the same level as Nikola Tesla was. Nikola Tesla, certainly there was nobody on his level when it comes to electricity or inventions. And electricity wasn't his only invention. But he certainly refined it, didn't he? And we're still using the generators to do his patents. We're still using the transmission patents for Nikola Tesla. And Elon Musk is no Nikola Tesla. Let me go back here. Okay, so the vote in the European Parliament, which are people appointed, not elected, to label gas and nuclear investments sustainable will be tight. So they created this to actually get away from nuclear. And now they're going to utilize it to put nuclear on a pedestal is absurdness. You can't have renewables and nuclear because nuclear is too greedy. It can't coexist with anything else, including species, for goodness sakes. It's the opposite of progress. And maybe in the future, some current generation will be able to utilize the atom appropriately, but the current generation is not, rather. The vote in the European Parliament over the Commission's proposal to label gas and nuclear investments as sustainable will be ugly. The Commission's controversial plan known as taxonomy, such a stupid name, it aims to make it clear to investors which investments can legitimately be written off in taxes and put pressure on the financial sectors to prioritize sustainable alternatives. Therefore, there's no way you can use nuclear in this as a definition. If you use geothermal and tidal energy, back it up with wind and solar, backed up with storage from compressed air and pumped hydro. Obviously, anything else that's out there that works too. It was already rejected by two key parliamentary committees in mid-June. But this system is so stacked. The nuclear industries capture most of your regulatory agencies worldwide. Certainly your universities and your medias. What are the objections to the inclusion of nuclear? It's still splitting the atom for millions of years. It's going to take out the planet whether you have a nuclear war or not. You got to deal with all the fuel pools worldwide exterminating our planet. And you got to stop growing food around these despicable, disgusting disease factories. There's 1,800 illnesses you get from breathing in man-made anthropogenic radiation. It has no good attributes. Zilch. And that's the sad thing about this story, isn't it? There are two broad groups of those who oppose. Why not just use common sense? And those, although these lines are softening in light of the current energy crisis, aka Russia, everybody, all the big NATO countries, United Nations countries, United Nations 195, NATO's 31 now, I think. They're the little pit bull of United Nations, which is an illegal corporation with 195 militaries. How can you possibly have a good result with 190? Oh, well, you do what we say because we got 195 militaries. That's been the rule now for about 70 years in the ashes of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's not supposed to exist. And because you let it exist, it is now it's actually bigger than Google, believe it or not. Try wrapping your mind around that one. I think Google is United Nations now. The camp led by Austria, Luxembourg, threatened legal action, appropriately so, over the Commission's taxonomy proposal at the beginning of the year. Objects to the classifying nuclear energy is claimed because of the lack of clean plans on how to dispose of the waste without environmental impact. The problem with nuclear, no one understands why it needs to be segregated for millions of years, because it's still splitting the atom. You are in so much trouble. Every fuel pool is hemorrhaging an absurd amount of atoms into your environment all day long, 24 hours a day. There's 440 nuclear plants. Reactors, and they typically got a fuel pool with decades of reactor cores stored in it. And each of those reactor cores is still producing the same atoms for 1 million homes per se, right? That's how you have to think about this. They're still splitting the atom all day, every day, through the trillions of microscopic cracks in the zirconium cladding. I turned the volume down so I can cough, and then the button came off, and I panicked in there. Oh, crap, I got no volume. I thought it broke it, actually, just pulled it off. Lack of clear plans how to dispose of nuclear waste. Now, we need, instead of carbon capture, you need radiation capture devices going around the world to try to scoop the radiation out of our environment that's hemorrhaging for 80-something years. European People's Party, Christopher Hansen, MEP from Luxembourg, they're anti-nuclear, also stressed during a press conference on Tuesday with other lawmakers object to taxonomy proposal that the precondition to be eligible under EU taxonomy, you would need a final repository for the highly radioactive waste by 2050. So you're giving them 28 years to come up with a solution. And you know what they're going to say? We'll have a solution but in another 20 years. That's what they're going to say, right? Oh, okay, well, you're going to have a solution by 2050, then it's carbon-free. I mean, all nuclear power plants need two external power plants, gas, oil, and coal plants just to run. Where's everybody? Where's all the people with common sense and the public spiritual? Why do we get the same creeps all the time? So every nuclear power plant needs one of them and one of those dedicated to it 24 hours a day to build it, because building it is absurd in this amount of energy. To run it, dedicated 24 hours a day. And then for another 60 years to decommission it. You're going to call that carbon free. Your parents should be arrested for raising you. You got to get it off the planet because it's hemorrhaging radiation into the environment 24 hours a day. You can't stop it. Return to nuclear energy is risky. The world, due to the unbearable price of oil and gas, many countries have planned to get electricity through nuclear sources. The nuclear industry went to war, so Russia went into Ukraine, and first pit stop was in Chernobyl. And then all of a sudden everybody started asking, what the hell is Chernobyl? Because most of the world's been asleep for 36 years. All of a sudden Chernobyl gets a bit of prominence. The nuclear industry launches a well-orchestrated, well-prepared, well-greased propaganda campaign to promote nuclear. And then all the 195 stupid UN countries and the 30 idiot NATO countries all says we're not going to drink gas or oil from Russia. So the instant, and I've done a video when he said this. So, well, there's only one thing that's going to happen. There is inflation. And then to our horror, absolute horror, we find out that most of the impoverished world gets the basis for their food from Ukraine, which is an actual nuclear wasteland. That's one of the most disturbing things I think I've heard so far this year. Probably for the rest of my life, actually. That a lot of the world might starve because they depend upon Ukraine for grain. Which is surprising really, because I covered a lot of the academic studies justifying grown food in Ukraine. It's just when you don't really sometimes see the big picture, I suppose. Very, very disappointed in the nuclear industry after that. The U.S., EU, and other countries are returning to nuclear power in a big way. No, they're not. It's posturing, man. Between 2020 and 2026, the International Energy Agency expects to have 5,500 nuclear power plants worth of energy, large nuclear power plants worth of energy in renewables, which is currently more power than we use worldwide in all our gas, oil, and coal plants. New power will be online by 2026. Nuclear can't compete with that for starters. And there's only the diehards. See, because you have a million corporations sucking the tit of the nuclear industry. You have the military sucking the tit of the, excuse the expression. You have the military depending on a huge chunk of their budgets because of the nuclear. Because weapons they can't even use. You have the idiot nuclear submarines that they're running around in the ocean, randomly sinking. You have all the uranium mines, and these are usually scumbags on top of that. You have the medical, degenerate chemotherapy industry. No two chemotherapies are the same, just like terracotta soldiers. Data? Never cured an animal in any country in the trillions of animals they killed. If they did, they'd actually put it in a glass transport truck and bring it to every school on the planet, I bet you. We cured this mongrel animal we created in another lab. The US, EU, and other countries are returning nuclear in a big way. Again, this is born, gas prices will go down, oil prices will go down. This was artificially inflated. Many other countries will come online quickly. We've been capping gas on the east coast of Canada for over 40 years, gas and oil. Not pumping it out, but capping it. You have no idea what kind of reserve I'm talking about. It's absurd. And we're not the only ones on the planet. Again, you see this is a straw man's argument. This is a garbage can diagnosis. The developed world also wants to reduce dependence on the developed world, on Russia's oil and gas. New world order is falling apart. Due to the lack of experts, rehabilitation of nuclear power plants and construction of new power plants is a dangerous move. Yeah, so many lulls in this industry with no renaissance that you lost the manpower, you lost the momentum. And because renewables now curb stomp in the nuclear industry, what we're seeing is their death cry, their death kneel. Adding that the nuclear power plants do not spread pollution. Of course they spread pollution. It's constant through the fuel pools. It never stops. It never stops splitting the atoms now for billions of years. It has 2 external power plants just to run it. Stop saying that. Do not spread pollution. It's absurd to suggest that you're making power for 1 million people with no pollution. It's absurd. It's absurd. It's an absurd suggestion. And just saying that over and over and over everywhere you go, that's not an accident. See, and so solar-powered wind is not the way you should have went. You should have went geothermal and tidal energy, which are both 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, backed up by then solar and wind, and then backed that up with storage like compressed air and pumped hydro and anything else that's appropriate. Solar energy requires clear sky, and wind energy requires high winds. This is the same song and dance. It's not a legitimate argument. Again, it's a straw man's argument, right? And batteries is not a solution to this. Why would you use batteries when you can have compressed air first and pumped hydro second? Because you can actually do both of them anywhere. It would be better to use renewable energy sources instead of relying on old scumbag nuclear technology, which is stupid, for billions of years. Nuclear power is a highly complex, expensive, and stupid way to boil water to create steam to turn turbines. If the nuclear power plant fails, causing vast human environmental damage while the burden is shifted to the public. Because that's who's paying for Fukushima for the next million years is all the species. Poor French idiots. They built all their reactors at the one time, and they all had flaws, real flaws on top of that. Now France's EDF, which is France's government, by the way, expects nuclear output cuts in summer because of low level in the rivers. So these droughts they've been having, per se, just hundreds and hundreds of senior citizens will die because they can't use their air conditionings and everything else. 70% of all the fresh water in France is used in nuclear. The other 30 of it is contaminated by nuclear. It was really interesting to show you that picture, right? That's the picture. That's the same plant, Noggin. That's the other side. And that's the other side of the same plant. But look at the picture that they show you, see? They don't show you the farms because they don't want you to think about all the radiation in your foods. Electric de France may have to reduce output at some of its remaining French nuclear reactors. Half of them are shut down. So they might have to shut down even more. Half of their 56 reactors are halted for repairs. It's repairs. And the struggle is partly to blame for soaring electricity prices in other countries. Nuclear is not looking very good, is it? And South Korea to build nuclear plants to meet net zero target. This is absurdness. It's claiming they're going to build 8 by 2030. This is absurdness. It's going to take them that long just to do the land prep for that many reactors. Renewables are going to curb stomp this industry in about 2 years' time. This is why you're seeing all this posturing. And the next guy who replaces this current guy will probably pull all of, which is exactly what happened in Germany, right? Will pull all of these plans because they're not going to come to fruition before he's out of power, right? And he's going to, at the rate he's going to burn up the resources in the country. They're going to have to rein in growth. We'll build 4 more nuclear reactors by 2030. Again, that's posturing. They're also going to build power plants all around the world. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the expertise. They don't have the supply line. And if you look at what happened in the United States at Plant Vogel, Westinghouse went bankrupt, for God's sakes. So did the other contractors. 6,000 people didn't get paid. It's like so far over budget. It's the whole story is just so stupid. If you put your same effort, same resources into renewable and compressed air storage, pumped hydro, and also the geothermal is everywhere. But in some places it's easier, but it's everywhere. If you try to come up with solutions, you could see. The new government saying renewable energies will be adjusted at a reasonable level basically means it'll be lowering the renewable electricity target. And right, they already done that several times, by the way. France has. Their percentage of renewables is just tiny. They come out and said they were going to do stuff, and then they threw money at it, and then they canceled it. They've done that so many times. That's disappointing. Another country is going to be polluted by the medical chemo industry, the genocide chemo industry. Oh, and treatment, which is the chemo genocide industry, right? And other diseases. Oh, which are all, by the way, caused by radiation fallout, like cardiovascular, diabetes, chronic respiratory. These are the major radiation contamination diseases on top of that. Impact of nuclear waste disposal. Canada has the kookiest ones if you'll ever come across. For 19 years, they've sat on $26 billion and they haven't come up with any solution. They're looking for a community that'll take the waste But the criteria for the community is huge. It takes several years to vet it. And during that time, they're willing to give the community just millions and millions of dollars to do whatever they want. Don't care what she does with it. Have a good time. Tell them the Nuclear Waste Management Organization sent you. They're not trying to come up with solutions. They could have a long time ago. And again, without emitting greenhouse gases. And I'm going to go, like I got most of my hair pulled out, but I'm going to go out and buy a wig, and every time I sit down, I'm going to pull hair out of it and make me feel better. However, the amount of radioactive waste left behind from a nuclear power plant is relatively tiny compared to the waste produced by other energy generating techniques such as burning coal or gas. This is another strawman argument. If you take 5 gallons jerry can of the water from Fukushima tanks to a subway system anywhere in the world and lay it there and leave it there, everybody that walks past will die that day. If you take a pound of it, if you take a Dixie cup of the fuel rods, put it in McDonald's, and every person that enters that for 1 billion years will die. You can fill it up with people every 20 minutes, drag out the dead bodies, fill it up, drag out the dead bodies for billions of years with just a Dixie cup worth. So it's also splitting the atom into the environment at a ferocious event. Among the ideas consider above ground storage, launch into space. Elon Musk said he'll eat it all, but like everything he says, he hasn't got around to it. Ocean disposal, which was their favorite for 30 years. And ice sheet disposal, which is what they've done in Greenland. Still, very few have been out into practice. One was put into practice, ocean disposal. You know, where you go out and just keep throwing it off the ship without stopping. This stuff gets down to 6,000 fathoms or something. It's equal to about 2,000 pounds per square inch at a 45-gallon drum. And it's going to pop immediately before it gets to the bottom. These are demons. The industry, nothing but demons. Ocean disposal, discharging radioactive waste into the sea, was adopted by 13 different nations. It makes sense that this practice is no longer used. But they don't give you an explanation, do they? Ever. And I mean ever. Never. Not a single time. In years and years and years. Just tens of thousands of covering of stories a year. We've never heard them ever describe what the actual issue is. Just this vague, dreamy-like connotations of mystery. Well, the United Kingdom was brutal, man. And so was the Soviet Union, and Russia still is, of course. But Britain, for instance, they had special freighters, and they would just go out and dump barrels off the ship as they were driving along, all over the best nurseries of the ocean, all over the prime fishing grounds. Right? It gets all this pressure as it's sinking and then it implodes. Anything that floated, by the way, they would just shoot it. Because that's what stupid people do, see? 13 countries dumping nuclear unmitigated into the ocean for 30 years. They're so used to being monsters, they can't stop themselves anymore. There's no accountability, see? Congress and Parliament don't have the authority to make it illegal to be monsters for the nuclear industry. Consultation on plans to approve Sizewell C. This is a new plant in the United Kingdom, of course. It's got to be surrounded by farms. It's got to be surrounded by farms, Dana. The Environment Agency. Try wrapping your mind around who we're talking about. The people that are supposed to protect you are going to build a nuclear power plant surrounded by farms. Do you really think they don't understand how it works? My God, but hang on. It's just really something, isn't it? All the crazies are out. I'll give you the short version. It's kind of like the long version, but it's not. Okay. So we'll split there. So this is a Sizewell. Is this Sizewell C? Because you got two of them. Okay, so it's surrounded by farms, like most nuclear plants worldwide. Despite the fact that they know that vegetables and fruits and everything are going to suck up the radiation. Not only that, it's going to land all over them because they're right by nuclear power plants. The two meltdowns in Japan, or two meltdowns, the multiple nuclear meltdowns, that's the official picture of Reactor 4. Oh, and by the way, that's the official picture of Reactor 4 in Japan. That's the official picture, and that's the official picture. Oh, I can't tell the difference. Can you tell the difference? Look amazingly exactly like to me, Dana. I know, that's what I mean. It's crazy, right? So these are nuclear power plants all around the world surrounded by farms, despite the fact that they know plants suck up radiation at a phenomenal rate. So why would you build the same, nuclear academics are doing studies showing how plants suck up radiation, but then all plants, not all, but the majority of them are surrounded by farms, despite the fact that they know that it's stupid to have farms around nuclear power plants because they already know it's stupid. But they keep building nuclear power plants in the middle of farmland despite all the academic studies saying, hello, it's probably not a good idea. Vertical soil transfer, but they got a study on just about everything when it comes to this. Do you think it's an accident that almost all nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms? Do you think the farmers are trying to bully the nuclear power plants? You big shit. Even future nuclear power plants, the one today, Sizewell C, is surrounded by farms. The permit would allow Sizewell C to dispose and discharge radioactive waste. See, you don't know you're a slave till you read something like that. And discharge the liquid influences radioactive waste into the North Sea. Because where do you think they're going to discharge the radioactive waste? Into the North Sea, Dana. The Environment Agency works with the Nuclear Non-Regulatory Agency. Hang on. Oh, all these years, my voice is finally shot. That it worked with the Office of Nuclear Non-Regulatory Agencies. That could one day slash bills, Dana. Whoever wrote that, they should give you a bonus. They can give you some of those pet kids from Fukushima's orphanages or Chernobyl's orphanages. You can use them as soccer balls. Oh, and they've said faster and cheaper. See, they don't see humans as people. They see them as soccer balls. It's a metaphor. Within the next, because someone will chop that out, attack me. Within the next 25 years, give or take a couple more decades. First off, the nuclear industry's never built anything on schedule, or even close to schedule, or even close to budget, or even within the realms of budget. The budget wasn't even in the rear view mirrors, which could help. Don't say net zero, I'll kick your ass. Oh, he said it, that the UK will hit its net zero, which was a study by Scumbag Miles Allen. Everybody on the planet now has been tortured since Miles Allen's. God, it's just humiliating, isn't it? Well, look, let me try to explain something for you, because it's not pretty. We live in a... Here's your... You'll like this, trust me. Bear with me. Let me start it off first. First off, here's the father of global warming. Hello, asshole. Here's the father of net zero. Hello, pinhead, Miles Allen. Guess who came up with the carbon footprint? Carbon, because you hear carbon all the time, right? And how do you bring your carbon footprint down? The idea of a personal carbon footprint was popularized by a large advertising campaign of the fossil fuel company BP. It diverted attention from a fossil fuel industry onto the consumer after he had a major oil spill with a ship. And now everybody's saddled with this word carbon. And don't forget climate change. James Hansen, the degenerate James Hansen, gave a single speech in 1988, the same as the rest of these guys. Single speech. His testimony, a single 15-minute testimony in 1988, was pivotal. Turning point in the history of global climate change. It's the official beginning of a global warming policy debate. It's just terrifying. It was an important turning point in the history of global climate change. So you had Hansen for climate change. You had Dr. Death, Wallace Brocker as the father of global warming. You had Miles Allen for the father of net zero, and BP Oil blaming you for the carbon footprint. We should all be humiliated right now. I got no idea what I got done now. There we go. Did I screw that up or something? I had never had that on the screen. Oh, I had it on the big screen, did I? Who knows with Dana sometimes. I think we missed, I wasn't paying attention to the screen that time. It caught me off guard. I can't go back and figure it out right at this moment, but whatever. Next time I'll get it right. G7 asked to support nuclear energy use in fighting climate change. Oh, it did. Okay. I'm going to keep her rolling. They're going to roll, baby. Right. G7 asked to support. Well, they already did, right? They had Boris Johnson and the Prime Minister of Japan agreed to ship all food with no restrictions in the United Kingdom from the nuclear wasteland from the G7. It's surreal, isn't it? Asked to help other nations start or restart the nuclear program to combat global carbon emissions. So the whole industry, this is one big agenda, and it's a very terrible agenda. They have a whole network. They have 5,000 news outlets to pump that narrative out there on top of that, they're saying. Study finds no evidence of genetic legacy in children of United Kingdom nuclear test veterans. We must have covered several hundred of these stories of the victims, of their children dying at young ages of rare and fatal diseases and illnesses, not immune deficiencies and injuries. And again, we see the United Kingdom come out and bludgeon the victims. 70 years of bludgeoning the victims. There's not that many left, see? United Kingdom refuses to acknowledge that radiation can harm you, because then they can't quantify. See, they can't quantify what they've done to Australia, which now has the largest cancer rate per 100,000. Cancer is just one of 1,800 illnesses from radiation. But again, right, they done this 30-person study, they claimed, of victims and their children, and see no genetic abnormalities. Despite that, we've covered it, hundreds and hundreds of stories over the years of just United Kingdom victims. You can lose faith in humanity pretty quick around here. Yeah, the industry is insane. It's absolutely insane. So, like, first off, in the United Kingdom, they closed 9,000 farms in Ireland, Scotland. I'll bring it up for you in a second. And Ireland, Scotland, United Kingdom, they closed 9,000 farms because of radioactive fallout from 3,000 miles away in Chernobyl. I'm getting there. Bear with me. Let me dig that up for you right quick. That's pretty easy to find. And remember, Elon Musk said he went to Fukushima, ate the food immediately after the nuclear meltdown to prove it was safe. That was a step. He happens to own that paper on top of that, right? That said that. Okay. All right. Hang on. Yeah. Yeah, nuclear industry is actually insane, right? Here we go. Hang on, I'll show it to you. So after Fukushima nuclear meltdown, They closed 9,000 farms in Ireland, Scotland, and the United Kingdom. 400 are still closed. But the victims, right at ground zero of multiple nuclear detonations, that all of them tell the same story, symmetrical through to survivors, and have their legacy of their death certificates of their dead ones, and you're saying there's no adverse effects on those victims. So this is a picture circulating in mainstream media. This allegedly was of Chernobyl 200 ton. Now that's a handrail there. Do you think that weighs 200 tons? So what they done was they darkened it. And then they photoshopped in this guy. First off, you can't take a picture in that environment. If it was true, he would have died before he got that close. Second off, all you got to do is take the picture, darken it up, and then stick me in there. Yeah, everything looks normal, Dana. I got myself stuck in here too. Look at that, in his picture. In the official picture from the mainstream. It's a fake picture. And closing 9,000 farms in Ireland and Scotland and the United Kingdom, and denying the people that were in harm's way for extended periods. I mean, United Kingdom is the only country that does this, by the way. But United Kingdom actually went to Australia and Christmas Island and other places. But it went to Australia and waited for the wind to blow across Australia and then set off their nuclear weapons in Montebello and Maralinga. But they also set off over 700 dirty bombs where they took pure plutonium and fission uranium, wrapped it in conventional explosives, and exploded it. And then left. And then a couple of decades later, there was an inquiry, and they threw like $100 million at him. Here, take $100 million and shut up. And they just left the whole place. It's just, the whole story is a story of contempt. It's 100%. All we see from the nuclear industry is incredible contempt for all species, for all future generations. Nothing but contempt. The whole world thrives on hiring people that have contempt for everything, including themselves. I went over and looked at their study, and I'll call them out again later on when I go through it. A viewer spots Sellafield blunder. Sellafield. So they show us this picture. Cows, farms. The whole place is surrounded by farms. They had multiple nuclear meltdowns. They had a mixed oxide fuel meltdown at this site. It's hemorrhaging 8 million liters a day into the Atlantic Ocean, and it's surrounded by farms. I can't find a single redeeming quality of the nuclear industry. Not one. Not one. I apologize. Well, at least I don't talk with an Australian accent, which probably wouldn't be bad, actually. Anyway, you get kind of sick of this media after a while, and then you realize that it's a real dangerous thing. Siren test scheduled July the 13th to Brunswick. The Brunswick disease factory. 38 sirens within 10 miles. If you can hear the siren, you should sell what you got and move somewhere safe. If you can hear the siren, you're not safe. Will sound for 5 to 30 seconds between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Don't pee your pants. Just us being dicks. These are disease factories, eh? All they do is hemorrhage radiation all day through their fuel pools. Search for nuclear waste site in Lincolnshire progresses. This is what the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, CREPO, says here in Canada all the time. They got billions of dollars, and if they start spending it, they won't have billions of dollars. So there's no chance they're going to come up and spend it, because they won't have billions of dollars. For the safe disposal of radioactive waste in a big hole in the ground. If you're going to put it in a hole in the ground, for fuck's sake, put it in the ground. Get it over with. It's going to melt down, for sure, if you put it in the ground on top of that. Right? At some point in the future, it's going to melt down. And nuclear is a real strange animal because it doesn't need oxygen, right? That's the crazy thing about a nuclear chain reaction, is it doesn't need oxygen. That's the only reason a reactor works on top of that. But it'll consume everything at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures for eons. Eventually, the Earth will have a sinkhole and the emissions will finish off anything left on the planet. Again, they talk about community engagement, investing funding, providing immediate benefits for the communities. This is bribery, is what they're talking about, throwing money around. See? It's a really fascinating thing, and you see them doing it day after day, year after year, where they're going in and they're grooming these communities to be victims by throwing money around to people in positions of decision. If a suitable site is eventually found, a test of public support will be held for those victims living in the affected wards. So they're talking this cold, calculating type. They'll do a poll, and if the public don't want it, we're not doing it. It's got to be where they want us. It has to be in the community, and they have to want us. In other words, it'll never happen. There's some real sickos, man. The whole story is like a real bad. BWXT, which is a fuel pellet maker in Ontario, and every time you see the BWXT Canada, they're right alongside of a school. They're right in a residential area making uranium fuel. You can't stop the emissions of these disease factories either, see? Labour MP hits out as a bad reaction because yesterday a siren went off when it wasn't supposed to. They've never used them, actually physically used them for an emergency ever anywhere on the planet. They were put there by activists, and now it's been weaponized against the population. So yesterday, a siren went off in Plymouth when we covered. This was a military naval base, right? We've covered it quite a lot over the years. It's another real disease factory. They've written to the Defense Secretary about a woeful lack of communication about a nuclear siren. Yeah, because now that population, thank goodness, will be anti-nuclear before the week is out. They call it an air raid siren, but it's not. It's a radiation siren. Singles radioactive material has been released into the air or marine environment. See what I mean? But at the top it says air. They do that a couple of times, but they call it an air raid siren. And in the next sentence they tell you what it's actually for. It's 100% meant to misdirect the people that are seeking information. A real bunch of sickos, that's what these creeps are. Nuclear radiation siren went off today in Devonport. The nuclear radiation siren. That'll never get used in a real event, by the way. I don't know what that's all about. The Large Hadron Collider will embark on a third run of this 27-kilometer circle or something. No more precious magnets left on the planet. They got it all down in that shithole. They observed 3 exotic particles while the planet dies from radioactive fallout from the nuclear industry. Oh, to have some kind of brain power would be amazing. Unlock, like if you let these people unlock secrets of the universe, the first thing they're going to do is split the moon in two, and then everything else will take care of itself, right? Oh, let me see here. I placed the order today for the wheel bearing for the truck, and they might show up sooner than I thought. It was 179 Canadian, 180 Canadian. And we thank James Lucid for that because he donated 185, which covered all the expenses on that. Nothing worse than people like Elon Musk saying they're pro-nuclear. The nuclear industry will take that and go nuts with it. Because the nuclear industry doesn't have a single person that's likable they can use. And so when people that are marginally tolerable say they're pro-nuclear, the nuclear industry freaks out and you can't get away from it. And so you're stuck with this bizarre gibberish for it. The nuclear industry is insane. That's the definition of a nuclear industry. There's a whole lot of insane people have taken over our planet. And we need to wrestle it back and come up with solutions, not for carbon, but for global warming, which is radioactive fallout. Ooh. I mean, when you look at the truth, the reality, the actual documentation, so you had 16-day model from France of Fukushima radiation fallout, only based on venting, when the buildings didn't even exist anymore. So imagine if they actually put in the loss inventory. All the oceans, all your drinking supplies, all your farmlands, the entire cycle of life permanently disrupted. And the trickle effect is immediate. And not only that, it affects the climate dramatically. So this was a German model of just releases into the ocean after 6 years. But it didn't matter because the airborne pollution wrecked the whole planet in just 16 days. And we've done a lot of research expeditions that quantifies any of my assertions about this. And Another crazy day for Dana. I made it through today. Thank goodness. It's 11:25 p.m. Almost midnight we're on to. Pretty burnt out today. It wasn't as hot today as was the previous couple of days. And I was checking, going through a lot of the equipment, seeing, because we might try to do if we can get rid of the kidney stone, we can get out and do some research. I'll probably go anyway, just tough it out, take a bunch of painkillers with me. Because, like, we got to get out and do a species count. It's terrifying what's happening to our planet. We got to get out, well, got to start getting out looking for spiders because they disappeared in the last couple of weeks or a couple of years. And we only see them on human-made structures, not in trees or bushes. That's because of radioactive fallout. And get out and hope that they're coming back, but not looking good, right? We'll call it an easy show tonight. There's no such thing as an easy show, of course. Hang on, I almost finished her. Oh, let me see. So how did our poll go tonight? Looks like we got censored. We've been censored pretty heavy on this channel, man. Seriously. Should Elon Musk apologize for being a degenerate pro-nuke tart scumbag? 37 votes, 97% said fuck yeah. Of course you should, Dana. I agree wholeheartedly. And we'll call it a night. Feeling good tonight. Feel pretty good today. So that's kind of cool. And it looks like the mold is deflated even more. Well, not looks like it has. It's like 4/5 of what it was Thursday night. After putting DCA on it mixed with water. And so I would imagine in the next 2, 3, 4 days it'll be, because like molds are different. Like I've seen DCA kill warts in 2 days in every instance. But to do it to a mole, because there's nothing that does that to a mole, right? Nothing. So that's pretty encouraging. For other reasons. Andrew B. Good night, everybody. Annie, Archie, Tinker, Albert. Richard, Kevin, Blanche. Hi, Kevin. Dana Nasana. Hi, Dana. Thank you again, my friend. John Curtis. Good night, everybody. Another Gmail. Peace swear. Colette S is out there somewhere. Probably catching it live usually. Conrad. Good night, everybody. Take care. See everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. My time is night. And James Lucid. Hi, James. Isotopes on Earth even welcomed in hell. There's a statement, isn't it? Well, and see everybody on the next show for sure. Everybody that's out there watching it later, hi everyone watching it right now. You're awesome. I'm not going to try to call out everybody, even though I probably did, the looks of it. I'm shooting up through it. We'll come back to the most recent comment. We'll call it a night as the show is over, officially over. Just doing a quick scan up through the comment sections that are available on the inside. It's hard to hang with Dana, man. It's Chet Austin. You gotta really hate nuclear to be here regular. Yeah, looks like I got everybody anyway. So good stuff in the comment section. That's awesome. We'll see everybody on the next show tomorrow night. And you gotta get out and look for spiders for sure. It's that time of the year now. Once the weather breaks here on the East Coast in another week or something, we'll go to every day look for spiders in the forest. We'll be able to stream from out there. Take care, folks. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Have a great one.